The snake that came into the garden was, actually, Enlil's brother, Enki. Millions of people were on this planet long before Adam even arrived. And then Adam was born, the first genetically modified, what they called to perfection, a human being, Homo sapien. Let's talk a little bit about this pantheon that came to Earth. There are a couple of really interesting gods, lowercase g, that came here. The first one is Anu. Now, he wasn't the first one here, but he was considered to be the father, head, or the Lord God. He was over the main gods that came to this planet. His name was Anu, A-N-U, hence the name that humans gave them, the Anunnaki. Okay, Anu. So they gave still credit to Anu as the father, head of the god figure. He mostly ruled from space, or from the sky, or from heaven, as the ancient texts say. And Anu had sons. Okay, a son's sons were Enki and Enlil. These people, these three, are considered gods. They were deified by the peoples of Earth. They masqueraded as gods, except for Enki, E-N-K-I. He kind of had a certain level of empathy and sympathy for human beings. He even married a human being. He had love with human beings. He had a baby by a human being. One of his relationships resulted in a baby named Zidra, who's actually Noah in the modern-day Bible. And so that story is copied from the Epic of Gilgamesh. However, these people were not gods. They were flesh and blood people. They weren't multidimensional people. They weren't from some other universe. These were people that walked around just like we do, but they were knowledgeable. They had advanced technology. They had wisdom beyond what we had. They knew about genetics and how to modify genetics. They knew about chemistry. They knew about alchemy. They knew about quantum physics and quantum mechanics. They understood planetary alignments. They understood navigation through stars, as left behind by some of these Sumerian tablets that depict star maps. So this is information left behind that it's not coming from Billy Carson's brain. It's coming from what they left behind as wage for us to learn from and to understand exactly what went on in the ancient past. Now, what's interesting is these two were at odds with each other. You have on the right-hand side, you have Enlil. Now, this guy was given control of Earth. Even though his brother Enki, the Earth was named after him. His name is E-A, capital E, capital A space, N-K-I, Enki. Now, Eki is the name for Earth in ancient times, and E-A was the beginning of his name, so it became, over time, Earth, E-A-R-T-H, just so you can know. If you go back into the tablets, you discover this. Now, he was supposed to be ruling over Earth. But there is no real true information as to why he wasn't given the true full power as his brother, Enlil. Enlil ended up ruling and running the planet, superseding him, and he actually had to operate underneath. As far as a totem pole of power goes, he was underneath Enlil, even though he wasn't supposed to be. There's no real understanding as to why. We could never find it. Nobody's ever found it yet as to why that happened, but that's the way it happened. Now, Enki was a scientist and astrophysicist, a geneticist, and Enlil was more of a battle king, ruler, and also an engineer and architect. And Enlil created this place called Eden in Mesopotamia, E-D-I-N. And in this Eden, it was an outdoor laboratory with this huge gate and guards, armed guards, surrounding it, as evidenced in the Apocrypha text. So if you read the Book of Adam, you discover that there were armed guards at the gates to Eden. And those armed guards would prevent you from leaving or prevent you from coming in. It wasn't like, hey, you can't come here. It was like, if you come over here, we're going to kill you. And you can read all of that in that's a whole another podcast. Read the Book of Adam in the Apocrypha. It was left out of the Bible on purpose because it's too brutal. Adam. Adam even tries to commit ending his life a couple of times because he's so distraught at what he figured out, what happened, and who they really were. That's in the Apocrypha text. You have these two guys here. Eden's been created, and you have a lot of these beings coming through in and out that they've been working with creating. So, they started with cloning the existing hominid on this planet, and using this cloning technique, which would create a worker, but then it would fail because the worker would die early, would die rapidly. And also the worker could not reproduce, right? It's like trying to mate once you made a donkey or a mule with a horse, the offspring can't have any babies. So whatever splicing technique they used to do this, the failure point was that they couldn't reproduce. And it was a lot of work to keep creating more and more of these offspring the manual way. So they came up with an idea. Their sister did, actually. She said, "You know what? Tell you what, I'm going to take the baby to term myself." So that was the solution. So what she did was, she took one of the hominids from the captured people that were in the Eden, right? In the laboratory. She took an egg out of the woman and added the essence to it, which means they probably genetically modified it or added some DNA or whatever they did. She made a zygote, in modern terms what we call a zygote, inserted it into her womb there during her menses, and then took the baby to full term. 10 months, according to the tablets, 10 months. And then Adam was born, the first genetically modified, what they called to perfection, human being, Homo sapien. So Homo sapien people were already here. Millions of people were on this planet long before Adam even arrived. So, forget that Adam was first and Eve was first, and then they were, there were people here already, and I covered that in the previous video. But to add credit to that, after Cain killed Abel, he told God that, which is really Enlil, that, the people out there are going to kill me. What people are out there? And he told them, "No, they won't kill you. I put a mark on you so they know you're my boy. And by the way, when you get out there, you'll find your wife." So there were people already here. Many, many, many people. Adam was just one of the very first genetically modified to what they considered perfection. Because he can listen, he can obey, he can take command, he can handle the workload, and as well as he can reproduce. That was important to them. Okay? And so where we have the Garden of Eden situation is where Enlil comes back after some time. And while he's gone, though, before he comes back, he goes away before he comes back. Adam and Eve, how do we get Eve? Well, they figured out that Adam was mating with these other splices that they had created, and it wasn't working. So they put him to sleep, and they took some of his DNA out of his bone, and they created Eve as a clone of him. And then they made the two together, and she was able to get pregnant. However, they were in the Garden of Eden, which is an outdoor laboratory setting. They had timed mating sessions. It was like you were cattle. It was timed. It was, okay, now it's time for you to go mate. Okay, go back into your area, things like that. And they started mating him and other people that they had created like bucks, right? Just like from the slavery times. Well, anyway, Adam and Eve were in the garden, and they're talking to the serpent. Now you have to remember, in ancient times, the serpent represented wisdom and understanding, knowledge. It had nothing to do with evil. Anywhere you see a serpent depicted in ancient text, tablets, cylinder scrolls, papyruses, it's about wisdom and understanding. You see the two entwined snakes make the caduceus. That's for the medical industry, right? It still is today. They had to do with knowledge.